From Grand Prairie, just a little ways north of the west, further north to the west. Rick's going to be doing a demo today. I sent out this plan, an email, early version, and it's a piston style toothpick box. So whenever you're ready, Rick.
Oh, you're going to do that first before your meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, they don't have the right drill truck here for me, so I can't drill them out, but I have one that I started, that I just set down, that I've already drilled out. And basically, it's 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 blank. And drill this one out to 1 1/4, and this one's drilled out to 1 1/8. So when you turn the cylinder, and I can go ahead and I can turn the cylinder on one of them, you have about a little less than 1/16 of an inch clearance. So I'll quickly send this around. You can take a look at it if you want, and
Did you ask?
I did, yeah.
He hasn't got a wedge? No. Okay. I'm going to my drill press out of wedge hand. Yeah, some of them do. I never even had one at mine.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, I can drill this piece out, but that's as far as I can go because I can't change the bits. Well, maybe I can.
Yeah. Where's your,
Been working with this 1 1/4 phosphor bit. I like to run them at about 600 RPM. So anytime you're drilling, make sure you have your hand on that. It kind of stabilizes a bit. You don't know where it starts slipping. That's nothing work. Not tight enough.
Not tight enough?
Nope. Not tight enough.
just give it a rap with them upwards.
No, it's not tight enough. The bit's not tight enough.
Oh, so we need that chuck key, right?
Yeah,
It won't fit in this.
it won't fit in that chuck. So we got that last one, that one loosened off. Can you use that?
That's too long to go into your changeover.
Well, which one was which?
This is yours. Those two are the same.
Okay. These both are yours, right?
Yes. Anyhow, you've all seen people drill before, so I'm sure we can go without it. Yeah, I'm going to do this backwards. I've always drilled a hole first because you got such a thin wall, but just to kind of give you an idea of how I get that. So I'll go ahead and I drill this one out to 3 1/8 inches. just use this to stabilize it. This is my bottom piece. And this piece I just basically round over. The only thing I get concerned with is my junction point here. I like to keep the bottom as round as square as I can for weight. That looks a little bit more. And that's basically it for this one until I go to sand. You can do this with just a regular chuck if you want. I've got this mini chuck and I use it. I find it doesn't leave such big marks on the wood. This one I drill out to 1.25 inches and drill that one first because you get such a thin wall thickness. To try to drill it afterwards, you're liable to go through the side. And this one I just drilled out, that one I drilled out to 3 1/8, and this one I'm just drilling out to 3 inches. And the reason being is you need to have room for them to mate together. Afraid I watched Leo the wood turn too much, so I always stop the lady before I leave anything. Like 2 rest in there. There's one thing I should have mentioned. I always mark this where I want my hole to stop. That's about as far as I go with turning it down. One of the things I've done to turn this is I've made up these rings. I guess I should have drilled that first, which I always said I was going to, and I didn't. Good catch, guys. Thanks. We'll do that now before I go any farther. I have to go just a little bit more. Where was that? I'm going to pull this up a bit more.
How much do you need?
Eighth of an inch.
An eighth of
Not
an
very much.
inch. Give me the ruler.
Every 3 inches. Well, he's tighten that hand up, I'll just square this up. Yeah, these rings I made up to 1 1/4 inch. I put them on there so they fit kind of loose. Then I know it'll fit into the cylinder. It saves me from having to stand here with a set of calipers when I'm trying to turn, and it just means that this thing will just ride on here and slide back and forth.
3 inches to the top of
Okay,
the jaws.
that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. If you just let that run for a little bit, it does make a difference. Cleans your hole up nice on the bottom. And when you're turning this, I like to keep my wheel up because that's so thin. It's just the weight of the wheel, and that's all you need on that. And then make sure you lock it in, because I know what happens if you don't lock it in. You end up wishing you had, because it'll crack that thing and it'll move in and crack that thin barrel.
What's the purpose of the collar you put on there, right?
That's just my caliper collar, so I know that it's the right size.
Okay.
Time your tail saw.
What's that?
Your tail saw.
Okay.
You don't have to, but.
No, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. See, you guys got me all flustered now. I'm not a professional turner. I'm sure the guys here would have forgotten more than I want to know. I turn these at about 2,000 RPM. Just take your time on it because, like I say, the wall is very thin. And that should be good. If it doesn't fit, well, it almost does. And all I do is, because I'm kind of a coward, 36 grit, yeah. That's what I'm after. I forgot to get yours too. Just sand it down a little bit. The sand's easy. This one sands easy because it's acid. As far as it goes.
Checking the fit.
I was looking for the line.
Got your glass in your hand already.
And I'm just going to clean up this edge here a bit. Single feet on there now. That's great. I can go deep enough in this. Make it shorter, yeah. That's easy enough to do. Thought I had that 3 1/4, but I guess I didn't. Just go a little bit more. That'll do. Yeah, I gotta pull it out a bit. About an 1/8 of an inch or so. 1 1/4 inch. Okay, this is the plug that I put in the bottom of that. You'll notice it's cut on a 45, and the reason for that being is when you put it together, the long piece of the plug has to be where your window is. And being that way, every time you put toothpicks in it, they'll automatically fall this way. Thanks, Stu. Yeah, that should fit in there now. Just like that. All I do for the rest of this now is I just keep it together. This one doesn't need it. Okay. And turn the top. I'm almost too short. It's almost too short for this lady. You can do the top any way you want. I've done them with finials, I've done them with just balls on them. People seem to, everybody I've given them to seems to like them with just the ball on the top. The trick is to try and keep it as heavy as you can so that your piston will work properly. I'm sure the guys in here that are really proficient with screw cleaners will just say, I don't know why he's not using screw cleaner, it would be easy. I'm not that big with it. I don't use them enough, and I got used to this pretty degree grind on this detail gouge, so that's kind of what I stick with. Now I have a special tool that I use when I go to part that knob off so that it doesn't come flying out. It's called masking tape. That's what I use.
Actually make it all round, so you've got the square thing on the top.
Yeah, you can make it round whatever you want, yeah. Yeah. Now there's one over on the table that I've rounded right off. Yeah, you can make it round. There's a time constraint on this, so I'm just doing it quick and dirty. I don't really like the sharp corners because they're too brittle. They break off, so I just kind of sand them down. You can cut them down, you can... At this point, it's whatever you want. What's that?
You need the plug back.
I'll need the plug back here soon. Oh, I've got the plug for this one right here.
Okay.
Last thing I do is plug it. The masking tape actually holds it quite well. You're not really trying to turn it for any length of time. You just basically still got a flat on here, so it is look at. Real quick sand here, and I'll part it off and pass it around. No, I'm not going to part it off yet. I want to just touch this barrel off a bit. Anytime you're doing spindle, make sure that your last direction of sanding is with the grain. And then you can hide a lot of mistakes. Trust me, I know. One thing about Costco masking tape, it's fairly cheap. The other thing I've taken to do, and anytime I sand, I just have a paintbrush that I like to brush everything off with, so I'm not switching grits, trading grits. You can use an air compressor if you have one. I find my things just get way too dusty, that dust going around, so. Hey! So anybody that has anything favorite they like to turn and want to show everybody, just let Kev know. I'm sure he'll be happy to have to do a demo. I started this journey about 7 years ago, and that hole gets very deep. One of the reasons my wife was with me was then she knows what I was spending money on. Okay, now, I never parted off here until I make sure my piston box is going to work properly. So what I do is, I've got the plug already made for this one. Oh, it's a little tight, I'll have to loosen it up just a bit. The other thing I like to do is, on any of my trucks, I mark number 1 guy on it, so anytime I put it back together, it seems to be a little more balanced. If you don't do that, you'll find sometimes you'll put your chuck something up and it'll be a little wobblier than what you really thought it should be. Excuse me. And all you're looking for here on this is this loose enough. You're going to have some glue space. If you don't have glue space, when you go to put this on, it's just going to push it out of the way. Okay, that's good there. And I'll take my handy dandy saw. This is the easy part. Just come in here and cut it at an angle. Now, one of the things, excuse me. One of the things when you're using super glue, if you take the bottom of your barrel and spray it with your accelerator, there's really no time limit on accelerator, so if it takes you a couple of minutes to get your glue on and everything else, it's still going to work. I spray the accelerator in there. I find it's about the best way for me to work. And it's just a matter of gluing it up. I've never had a plug come out. I've had to drill one out because I put it in backwards, but I've never had them come out on purpose. I must be honest. And then I just made up this little thing here just to help me get it on there and put just a little bit of tension on it while it dries. Then, because I'm so cheap, I take my paper towel and cut it into little wee deals like that, because I don't need a whole big roll, a whole big piece of paper towel. And once that's set, you know what I didn't do? I didn't mark the long side.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, yes, it is. Oh, my goodness. Oh, see, you guys get me all excited now. I don't know where I'm at. We'll figure it out. This design is actually Scott Raines from the tool turning store. Todd Raines. Because when I got this whole idea from, so if it doesn't work out, you can blame him. Parting off, just make sure that you give yourself room to work with, because if you don't, you'll get your parting tool jammed in there. It won't be pretty. What's that?
If you hold it up to a really bright light, you can see which was the tall end.
Maybe.
It's thin enough.
Where's the lid went? Down there somewhere. There it is. Okay, well I've got this piece here. So if I kind of look at the way the grain is going, I might be able to figure it out. Okay, it's either well, I'm going to say six one, a half a dozen another. I'm either going to be right or I'm going to be dead wrong. So that's where I'm going to cut my window. So to cut the window, I got to quit putting things down because as soon as I put them down, they're gone. There we are.
I like your truck, Rick. Where'd you get it?
This is Record Power.
It is, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, they were showing that mini trucks, they have them with the dome jaws, so if you're doing finials or something, and you want to get really close, they're the answer.
Yeah.
that the smallest of them?
That's the smallest of them. I need, here we are. Uh-oh.
There's a safe drive in that top drawer if you want it.
Is there?
Yeah,
Good.
on the right-hand side, I think I seen it. Near the back.
So what do you have on the dowel?
Not in the box, it's sitting in there all alone. Look further back.
This one? It's not in a box, you say?
No, it's not.
Oh, here we are. I got it. What I got on the dowel is just some 180 grit sandpaper. I use a little bit of hot glue to glue one end and then wrap it around. And all it is for is cutting the window in it. Looks like I got a bit of
Horizontal spindle sander.
horizontal spindle sander, yep. I promised myself I would make sure I marked that, and guess what? I didn't. So, we'll see how good my guess is. And all you do now is just bring it up here and start sanding to your heart's content. It's fairly thin, so it sands quick. And get one of these. These erasers are the best thing since I don't know what. But if you want your sandpaper to last, get an
You should be able
eraser.
to look in there now and see where your angle is on your foot, right? Can you see it, figure it out?
Whoa, did I do a good guess or what? What's that? Yeah. The first time I seen this done, the fellow that was demonstrating it did exactly the same thing. And he picked a piece up off the floor and kind of ran it in there and said, "Well, I think this will do." And I thought, oh, I'm never going to do that. You know, it never does.
Is that just an arc gun eraser?
What's that?
Is that an arc gun eraser or?
Yeah, no, it's just it's eraser made for this kind of stuff, the sandpaper.
Okay.
You buy them in blocks.
What's that one here?
This one used to be about that long, but I'm always erasing my mistakes, so. I usually take perfectly good wood and turn it into fire pit wood. Looks like I should have been about 2 degrees one way or the other. Close enough. Close enough for government work. Okay, the only other thing to do here, I need blood all over that thing now. is part this off. Make sure that this is working right. A little tight. So what I'll do is, we got a bar.
There should be a knockout bar. I think it's,
Will this work? I don't know if it's long enough. Nope, it's not long enough.
Should be a long block of this already. Good enough. Pitch down.
And what they say, first thing you don't succeed, get a bigger hammer. Okay, I'll part this off and then I can pass it around. These all have Allen screws in them, so I always like to tighten them. I find a lot in my lathe at home anyhow, it stops so fast that it'll spin right out of there if I don't tighten it up. And you don't want to be there when that happens. And when that doesn't quite work right, then I just take this, which is just not quite 36 grit, 80 grit, and it doesn't take a lot of sanding. You don't need a lot of, you just need, the whole idea is when you let it go, it'll just slide down. There we go, I think that'll do. I'll give it just a hair more. And it looks like I didn't get the plug quite down deep enough, but that's fine. Like I say, it'll do for now. So maybe I won't part it off. Parting off is easy. When I get home, I can always deepen that a little bit and then it'll work right. But that's all there is to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. How does it work?
What's that?
How does it work?
How does it work? There's one on the back table there that you can play with, and I can give you this one, you can play with it.
the other half is on the board.
What's that?
There's another piece on the board.
Is there a piece on the floor? Just basically, when you pick it up, slides down, right to the floor.
Maybe when we send them to the coast, we sand it a little bit more because.
As long as you have that angle on the butt, toothpicks will always fall forward.
Nice decoration.
So I've done a few. I've sent some to Toronto, some to the West Coast, and what I do when I'm sending them there, because we're so dry, and I know the humidity level is quite a bit different, I sand it so it's quite loose. So at home it'll fall like a rock, and I've talked to my son who lives in Toronto, and he says, oh, it works perfect here. So that's the only thing you have to worry about, is because wood expands and contracts, so if you're going away from your own home territory, you may have to think about what you want to do. You said there's one on the floor here?
Yeah, it's underneath the table.
Oh, there we are. There we are, hiding on me. And I make up these little jigs and stuff and the rings when I'm doing this kind of stuff. This is the size for the plug I need for the bottom of that, so all I do is, I find it easier than trying to sit there with a pair of calipers. I had one, because you've got a, it's not completely round all the way through, the caliper catches it, and I had one that kind of chased me around for a little bit before I got the lay stop. So. But these are the rings I use just to gauge for my inside barrel. And it's just a chunk of plywood that I've drilled out into the meat, and I sanded it just a little bit, so I'm just a little bit proud. So that I know, when, I know I'm going to have to sand it a bit, but I just want to make sure I don't go through. That's my biggest concern is going through. And that, ladies and gentlemen, other than parting it off, and I'm sure you've all parted stuff off before, if not, you're in the wrong place. The other road is down the street. See, that's it. I bought the 4 and that. And then I bought all the jaws for that one.
It's available 33 millimeter too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Show that around.
Yeah. When I got my lathe, the biggest problem I had was trying to find stuff that was 33 millimeters. It's a lot easier now, but when I got mine, what a pain. You know, I bought the lathe here, and I bought the one-way chuck and got it home. You know, I couldn't screw it on. I thought, what the heck? Yeah, it was 1.25 inches.
One thread, that's all you get.
Yeah, that's all you get. And I can't remember who was here at the time. He's not in the club anymore, he quit, but he said, oh, that's lots, don't worry about it. I said, yeah, no, I don't think so. I think I really want to do this. I don't need that thing chasing me around my little garage. I don't duck as quick and I don't bounce very good anymore. So does anybody have any other questions?
Do you always use maple? Is that what you find is the best?
Well, I like maple. I've used apple wood. I had a couple of apple trees that I had to take down, so I used some of the apple wood. I've done it in cherry. It depends on what you want. I did this one in aspen because it sands so easy. It's very quick. You get a harder wood, it takes a lot more sanding.
Yeah, longer thaws in a bit too.
Yeah, it takes longer with everything. Everything heats up. And normally my bit is buried all the way in, and I'll drill that far, and then I'll pull it out. And I bought a 3/8 extension for a Fosner bit, but it was way too wobbly, so. But if I ever do this again, I'll know that you guys got a funny lathe, and I'll have to bring other things. You know, I thought of that when I was leaving this morning. I thought, I wonder if I should grab the key. And I said, no, these are all set up. It's just a matter of throwing them in there and for the bit. But the other thing I always do anytime I'm drilling, if I clear that bit, I've got a little paintbrush and I just clean it out all the time. It helps keep it sharper, and it keeps it from heating up so quick. At least that's my theory. So it works for me. The same with the paintbrush for when I'm sanding. I found that once I started doing that, I used to sand, and then I would take a piece of paper towel and wipe it off, and then sand. And I'd end up at the end, and I had all these scratches in there, and I thought, man, I sanded to 400. Like, what's going on? So you go back to the beginning, and once I started using the brush, that just disappeared. And these things, what I do when I'm finishing them, and you can finish them any way you want, but I like to use I've been wet sanding them with tung oil, and the finish on that is just a general salad bowl finish. And it does a nice job. I never finish the inside because it's for toothpicks, so that stays bare. Huh? That one's aspen. Okay.
for a little bit. Didn't seem like anybody wanted to talk, so we don't have talking, but now we brought some donuts, so that's for the donut.
My turn? Yep. All right, here it is. Bob, you got that elm for us there last year. This is one of the little bowls I did with it. It's got an Oswald finish. I think I got 3 coats on it. And then a little bit of Lithenberg. Burned a couple of rings and put some color to it. It's just a simple little bowl. I don't know, I think I brought this last year when it was half done. It's another piece of elm. Yeah, it was my first time I did a crotch with the elm, and I didn't know how it was going to go, and I was kind of just leaving it, kind of hitting on my bench up until last week when I cleaned my bench off. I figured, geez, I better finish that thing. Well, I had done all of the flood coat on. I got about 4 coats of flood on this thing and some color, and all I had to do was finish the bottom, and I was waiting to see if it worked, and so that when I did the bottom it would be flat, and I did. I finished it up, so I just wanted to bring it back and show that it was completed. And that's what I ended up with. And I did a little threaded box, piece of maple, and I did a CA finish on this. If anybody's wondering why it's so smooth and like glass, it finished up pretty nice. The thread turned out really good. Yeah, it's just a small little box. So there it is. Any questions? I'm off the hook. Nobody heckled me. Bert never said a damn thing.
Okay, I'll go next. So, poplar vase, just wood burned, just random designs that I found. And it's finished with tried and true Danish oil. And Stu had gotten me some Carragana, and I made an Easter bunny. So that's my contribution.
Hi, I'm Ken. I'm still at the learning stage, and I was very fortunate that Stu took me under his wing and showed me how to turn a bowl and how to use the tools correctly, and I learned quite a bit from that. So that was the first bowl I turned, so I was very happy with that, and thank you, Stu, greatly for that. I was busy for a week or two, and then I went back, and some of the things I couldn't quite remember. I remembered a number of things, so my attempt to duplicate this turned out a little bit differently. But as I went on, then I just sort of saw some different sort of possibilities and the likes. And I kind of like this, these kind of little grooves at the bottom. I don't know, I've been watching a lot of things about space and the universe and things, so I'm thinking about orbits and planets and things like that. And I just wanted to do something a little bit different, so I had this, I was going through a container of my dad's coins that he'd collected over the years, and this is a 1 penny from Britain, and it has a Neptune on it. So that was kind of cool. And it was also 1920, which was the year my mom was born, so I put that on. And then when I did the bottom, I was trying to think of something, and I got coins for, so each of the pennies are my birth dates of my siblings, and then this is the birth date of my dad, so I did that. But I think I'm going to maybe set them in and then redo the bottom, because it does wobble a little bit. Maybe the nickel is just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit thicker than the pennies, I guess. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, I got a little bit of stuff that's haven't been around for a while. I've done some different, maybe called board to a bowl. I kind of seen the idea, and I built a little jig for my lathe that I could cut the right angle. This one is cedar, sort of a fence board. I know I've talked to a lot of people who say they wouldn't touch cheap wood. Well, I love it because I can buy a cedar board for $5 and make, you know, whatever I want as an experiment. This is a chunk of pine that I had. I built some tables a few years ago and I had this chunk of pine left, so that's another one. And all my bowls, this one is spruce and cedar, gives you a nice contrast. This one is walnut and maple, sugar maple. So that was, all these built led up to doing this one. Because I didn't want to spend $30 worth of wood and then have to throw it in the burn pile. I'm kind of cheap that way. And then last Christmas, I watched that, I think it was Lyle Jameson, he was doing bowls. And he said, if you're going to do nut bowls, make sure you have a rim that curves in so that you don't get the nuts all over the table. So I figured I'd try a couple of nut bowls. This one is for the wife, this one's for me. You've all seen these, you've seen me murder one in here, so I don't have to go through those. All these bowls, except for this one, they're all wet sanded with tung oil and finished with the general solid bowl finish. And this one is just finished, sanded to 400 and just finished with the solid bowl finish. I didn't wet sand this one because I did this one. That was white oak and walnut. And when you wet sand, the pigment from the walnut goes into everything. I mean, it's got a nice finish to it, but it looks muddy. And then I thought I would bring a couple of pens. I know last one of the meetings I was at, somebody was saying that they were doing pens and weren't having any luck with CA finish. All my pens I do with the CA finish. So, and then once I get them down to micro mesh to 25,000, I take an automotive cutting polish and polish them, and then I just put a regular polish on them. Just regular car wax. And that seems to hold up very well. A couple of these pens are well used in a few years. And the CA glue works good, but you want to, I find for me, I have to use the thin CA and be very careful when you put the accelerator on. If you put too much accelerator on, it's going to boil and it's going to wreck it. That's it. My wife does a lot of crocheting, so I did one of the toothpick boxes and put a crochet thing in it. Had to make it bigger. And that's out of Coca-Cola. Very interesting wood to turn. It wants to shatter more than anything. It was fun. If you can't have fun, what's the point?
You go.
Okay, I'll get out of your hair.
Okay, so I'm here looking for help. It works if you buy big apples. Otherwise, they fall through. I've never done resin or epoxy. I like the grain. I like the color of it. And so somewhere, maybe after the meeting or somewhere else, I'd like to find out what's my next step.
Another one in my series of tiny molds. I thought it would be good for a pin cushion, but I like the look of it so much I didn't think it would be good, you know, oh my God, why would I want to cover that up with a pin cushion? So it was wood that was given out. It was, I think, a bunch of wood when Jeff was doing a...
Oh, yeah, that mating, yeah.
Yeah,
Mating, yeah.
yeah, so it was a little crotch of, I don't know what, but got a little bark occlusion on it, and just that, because of the crotch, it's beautiful. Great, so finished with butcher block oil. Okay.
These are a couple of basic salt and pepper mills that I made with a product called Spectraply, for those of you who haven't seen it before. They make all sorts of colors in this, and I just thought these ones here in particular are kind of funky looking and kind of a unique item on a kitchen counter. What I did differently with these ones, like my wife's suggestion, that the mills will leave a lot of residue on the counter or the table, so I started making little trays for them with just some indentations and trying to match them up. This is with some piece of granadillo that I had. And then these were two 12-inch blanks. You can tell I just made a little box. I learned a lot tonight about improving my toothpick box. I'll do something a little bit more elaborate, but I'm not sure about getting the longer blank. Might be a bit of a challenge, but anyway, another little piece that adds a dimension to it.
So where are you getting your blank from, Peter?
Is KJ something out of Ontario? It's online.
Oh,
KJ, yes.
Advertise on Facebook all the time.
Yeah.
I buy a lot of wood from them, it's good. And it's cheap, the shipping is cheap.
Shipping is cheap. These are not cheap. These pieces, their wood is not cheap, but they're hard to find. Windsor had a couple of pieces a while ago, but they were only 1 by 1. You need at least 2, 2.5. These I think were 3 when they started, but. Any other questions? Wait.
But if you don't want it, I'll take it.
Yeah. Gotta make some like yours now.
So about 2 months ago, Ken did a demo on making thin vases, and I was the lucky recipient to win the vase. So I went home and did piercing on it for my first piercing experiment. So we did some that were freehand, which are the 2 larger pieces, and then we did some butterflies, which were a little bit more difficult. Don't look closely at them because they're not quite the same, but butterflies are never the same anyway, just like people. So that's what I did over the last couple months. It's not finished yet. I want to learn how to airbrush, so maybe down the road we'll show you the airbrush version.
I'm just going to stay over this direction because I brought a number of pieces. You saw some of my piercing before. I was explaining earlier to some that the reason that wood is darker, it was turned about 11 years ago, and I just pierced it recently, and it browns up. You can resand, it'll bring it up some, but it never gets snow white again. If you want pieces to look quite white, you need to turn them and finish them within like a month. And then this is a piece, I had made one like that back in 19, and it was well received, so I thought I would try another one. And these pieces with the color is called marbling, and it's a craft in itself, and the supplies are expensive. It's a lot of experimentation, and I'm no professional by any means. I did find out that the more color you float on top of the water, the better. And I purposely made lids for all of these taller because I didn't want color going in the inside. And so I just made them a tight fit, because when you start doing this marbling, once you get your pieces sanded, then you have to wash them in an alum solution or paint it on. And of course, with water, that raises the grain. So then you're back to re-sanding after you let it sit for a day or two to dry. And then I experimented with a few of these rather than have to deal with multiple sandings. When I had it sanded the first time, I sprayed it with lacquer. Just one coat. And I felt, well, I'll try and see what happens. And the paint stuck just as good as the ones that were done the other way with, which they recommend. So it was a learning curve. And another thing, this one, I wanted the color inside. And it's very tricky because they all got to go in like this. But if you do, it'll get an airlock, and then there's no color in the bottom half of the vessel. So you kind of got to go on an angle and then turn, and then and if you try and roll them, then you'll get a seam where you completed your roll. So
That takes some practice.
it's a learning curve. And I brought another one of these. I've done one, I think the last meeting I brought, but I really like that. It just looks like a coiled spring, and you go twice one direction and then turn it 90 degrees and then do another, and just back and forth to get that quilted look.
You should bring that tool in.
Pardon?
You should bring that tool in.
Yeah, I can. And as Glenn Christensen said, he thinks that, what's this? No, out in Saskatoon where they make
Razor tip.
tools.
Razor tip.
No, razor tip. He thinks they handle them now. When I got mine, I got it 6 years ago at Portland when the symposium was there. When we were all down there. But I've never tried it until this winter.
That looks
I
like
can make it out of the micro. When I was in Utah, a lady did a demonstration with a similar tool, and she bought nichrome wire and just wrapped it around like a 360.
Well, you could wrap it around anything and then bring the two ends up to the top.
Razor tip has those replaceable end
Yeah.
handles, so you can just make your own tool.
Yeah.
And nichrome wire at Amazon is really cheap.
Is it?
50 or 20 feet for like $6 or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's because it's a good stiff spring and works like a charm. Lots of heat.
Thanks, Dan.
Nice work.
It was a couple or 3 weeks ago. Seattle woodturners had contacted the guild and wanted to know how we make our wake stands. And so I volunteered to show them how I make mine. And we did a Zoom session, and they were really, really impressed. And we made this one, and I went and lasered the damn ribbon on upside down. But it's a real easy fix because with the magic of television, it's on the right side up now. So this one took, what, 45 minutes?
Yeah.
45 minutes with questions and answers and whatever. Yeah. And one of the questions they said was that they were surprised that they could see one from start to finish in 45 minutes. Well, I had blanks for a second one, and so when they were done the Zoom call, I did this one in less than 30 minutes. So I sent them a picture of it right away and said, well, this one took 45, this one took 30. But what they wanted to know was a way of making their wake stands in a group setting. And so we explained to them that the only critical measurement is the fit. So if you have somebody in your guild that can make a nice fit into the hole, get them to just do the ends. And then everybody else can just turn the spindles and turn the bases, and everybody can participate, and they don't have to worry about wobbly fits. So they're really impressed with that, because they're trying to make a production run for their local cancer clinic. And I forget how many they said they made, but they want to make more. Now, on a lighter note, I don't know if any of you guys seen the little offset ducks that were on the table. Well, those were ordered by a lady from Sherwood Park, and she wanted 3. So when I make one, I never make just one of anything, so I was making ducks, and I made half a dozen. And as soon as she seen them, she took them all. So in addition to that, I would do some work for quilters. And here's a little scrap of wood that was going to, both of these were going to end up in a burn pit. So I bored a hole, hollowed them out a little bit, and made a pin cushion out of it. This one's got a magnet on the bottom. One of the quilters said they work on a Chesterfield or whatever, and they do hand stitching. They'll drop a pin or they'll drop a needle. Then they got to try and find it. They just love this, because they just pick up the pins that they brought. This particular one is hollowed all the way to the bottom, and then I filled it up with lead, and then sealed the lead in with thick CA. So this thing weighs a quarter of a pound. Like it's really, really heavy compared to just a piece of wood. And the quilters love these because when they lay their stuff on a table and they're moving their stuff around, they want it to stay where they put it. So they move it around, they drop that on, it holds the damn material in place, and yet still gives them access to their pins. So I made the first ones without any holes. Then they came back and said, well, what do I do with my stitch ripper? What do I do with my little tool? I said, well, what do you mean? Well, we need some holes. Okay, I'll go drill some holes, I can do that. And so this took me about 25 or 30 minutes to make the first one. And now whenever I've got a scrap of wood, I just make a bunch of bodies, and I've got a quilting friend that makes these things for them now, so I don't have to do the stitching. These sell for $10, these sell for 15. I can't keep them in stock. Quilters and people that work with needlecraft, they love these things. So as wood turners, if you've got people that do quilting and stitching at home, my wife's got 4 or 5 of these. She loves them. She's got them everywhere she might need them. They're like pencils for wood turners. You've got to put one in every corner of your shop, right? Well, the stitchers, they need a pin cushion in every corner of their shop.
Where do you get the lead? How do you make the cushions?
How do I make the cushions? These particular ones, I filled them myself. They're filled with real sheep's wool and steel wool. So I mix steel wool and sheep's wool, and it's just a little disc of cloth. And then, like the quilters make them now, they just make a disc of cloth and sew the end in. And you make it so that they're tight. So you push them in, you actually got to push it in. You could take these out and put them back in, but they won't fall out. I'm not a sewer, so I don't know how to make the things. I just make the wood part.
So why the steel wool?
Steel wool sharpens the needles and pins, and the sheep's wool has lanolin, natural lanolin, so it lubricates them. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to use this stuff, but I've learned this from the people that actually do. And so they really like these because they've got steel wool and sheep's wool. They just love that.
Better make it $20 now.
Yeah.
What size steel wool?
I'm not sure. I just had a bunch of steel wool, and it's 4X or 3X or whatever I have. I just mix it up about 50-50.
It's like sandpaper, it comes in different grit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's fine or very fine. I can't remember which one, but it's it pulled out apart real nice and easy and mixes real nice with the sheep's wool. So, yeah, great Christmas gifts. Good for the honeydew list.
Where do you get the lead?
I bought a 25-pound bag of lead at Cabela's. It's a reloading shot for shotguns. So it's really small pellets. It's real easy to scoop in. And you pour thick CA on it, and it makes a big clump of solid lead, and it fills all the little pores, so you don't have to worry about being super fancy or whatever. Works for me. And it works for the ladies that get them, so I'm happy.
I'm bringing back a project that I had last meeting, the project that was all over the shop. And I said I was going to throw it in the fire pit. And then I thought, what the heck, there might be a few more things to be learned with this thing before I burn it. So I put it in the lathe, glued it, used a centering plug here so that the thing stayed centered, and glued it together, and it looked pretty good. So then I cut off the damaged ring on top and did a little bit of experimenting with grooves, and it turned out not too bad. Just my only problem now is I don't know what I'll do with it.
Will it hold wide?
Will it hold wide?
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of bowls that I had started previously. I think I brought this one at the last meeting, and they had large holes in here. It's Manitoba maple wood that's came from a burl on the outside of a tree. And anytime you turn it down, you end up with holes. So my job was to figure out a way to fill it with epoxy. So I talked to Stu and got some ideas. And then I went to the epoxy, Designer Epoxies in Montreal, and they have a fellow on there that demonstrates using epoxy. And he quite often uses a shelf liner, which is a plastic material, and then he fastens it in place with hot glue. So what I did was hot glue patches on the bottom here, and then set it upright and filled it with epoxy here a couple times to fill in all the holes. And then you tear the hot glue patch off, and then just turn it like you normally would on your lathe. And that came out fairly well, and I liked the yellow, but then I thought I'd try something with a little more contrast. I had one more piece of wood, so this one was done in a green epoxy, and I sort of like this one more because it stands out a little better than the other.
It's got a face to it.
Hmm?
It's got a face.
So it was like a...
Yeah? Or is it this way?
No.
So did you rough turn those to...
Rough turned it to about 3/4 of an inch,
and
then filled all these holes.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of room then when I started turning it down. I had a little patch missing on epoxy and would come out of there. So, but that epoxy is terrible stuff. If you leave a little tiny bit of a gap, it just runs out. It's even runs faster than water.
Yeah.
So, lots of learning stuff there.
Did you have a pressure pot to put that in, or?
No.
So you just use the slow set?
Just used, well, this stuff was 3-hour epoxy or 4-hour
Right.
epoxy, and it went on there not too badly. Since then, I've got a bunch of that deep set epoxy from Designer. They had a special $200 for 3 quarts of the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's a lot harder to work with. It seems to run, it's more viscous, runs faster, takes longer to dry. Sometimes takes 3 or 4 days before it dries. And you need a pressure, I think you need a pressure pot to do it properly too, and I don't have a pressure pot, so.
Actually, I use that slow set epoxy because I don't have a pressure pot. And I find that if I have to go down half a dozen times during the day to give it a little bit of heat to get rid of the bubbles, but
Yeah.
actually it comes out not too bad.
Do you ever try and put lines in it by sort of running something through the epoxy?
No.
No? Okay. I'd like to learn how to do that, and I haven't figured that out yet. It takes so long to dry. Even on the second day, you can sort of put things in, and it's pretty liquidy.
Well, I seen Windsor Plywood in Grand Prairie had a demonstration on using it, and all they did there was they mixed their epoxy with the color they wanted, and then they poured it, and they just take a little bit of the dye and set it in there, and then just take a toothpick or something like that and just go through and it will swirl around.
Yeah. The question is when you do it, because if it's taking 2 or 3 days to dry, do you do it?
Well, she did it right away, and hers was a slow set.
And it stayed?
Apparently, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen the piece because I went in there the other day to see the piece and it's not there. So maybe it didn't work out.
Don't forget that these guys sell epoxy now too, eh? You get a little bit better deal.
Lots of different people sell it.
Yeah.
I think that place in the Dukes will do workshops and stuff like that. So you might be able to ask that question if you
Wooden resin.
Yeah.
So,
Who's that in Leduc?
Wooden resin.
yeah, wooden
On
resin
50.
is what it's called. And, yeah, it's only been there about a year, and they're a one-way distributor as well now, and they have a bunch of tools, but they do a lot of big ones and stuff.
Go on a field trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of epoxy tables and
Yeah.
coffee tables and.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're very popular right now.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that it?
I think that is it. So, this is it. So, I got a bunch of offcuts here from a project I was working on that would be good for pen blanks, Jitoba. Anybody want some pen blanks?
Sure. Sure.